Why don't you give me a sign?
This is Corinna Jeymes.
The leaves are trailing along that shore. It's not your problem, it's mine.
With her brand new single, Give Me a Sign.
While the world still spins,
As featured on BBC Introducing.
it's just the way it's gotta be. Give me a sign about the things that we don't know. Why don't you give me a sign?
Corinna Jeymes, Give Me a Sign. Out now.
It's not your problem, it's mine.
Open it.
Please.
Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica and welcome to the Fan Carpet. Tonight we are here at BFI London Film Festival 2021.
I feel amazing, man. I feel elated. And you know, we're in London, man. Like, I snuck into the London Film Festival so many times. I'm just a guy from Harrow Road. And so to be here with my debut film is poetic in a way that I can't even write. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Maybe BBC One.
Okay.
Because them dudes were just hammering us with westerns, like just growing up, and then BBC Two, right? Just growing up, I was always watching westerns. I love cinema. I'm a cinephile, but the genre of the Old West was always just alluring to me. But you know, I've always said the scope that they showed us those stories through were really narrow. They didn't really leave way either side for any other interpretation. Women of all colours were always subservient. If you were a person of colour, you would like less than kind of human. So although I loved the genre so much, it just made me want to do more with it and broaden the scope. And I love westerns so much, I just had to kind of come out first with Western. I was actually on Kilburn Lane, Mozart Estate, West London, when I first said to myself, I'm going to do a Western. And my friend said, who's going to be in it? I was like, everyone. and then that's it.
I've never been a fan of Westerns. Okay. Where I grew up, Westerns were not a thing that we watched. I had no real connection to Westerns. So when I talked to Jeymes, he's super enthusiastic, and Jay-Z called me and said, meet with Jeymes. We have to produce this movie. So talking to Jeymes and then reading the script, I saw more than just a single genre movie. This wasn't a Western to me. And I told Jeymes from the beginning, this is a love story. Even more than a revenge story, to me, this was a love story. So I started to see the past kind of what people were categorizing this as. This was a story. This is people. It just happened in that period of time. But I never viewed this, and I still don't view this movie as a Western. I don't have a real connection to that. So, but I do connect to characters and the people and story. So, and being here at this moment is amazing. I'm so happy to share this with Jeymes and the cast, because even on the first week of shooting, Jeymes would say, so at the premiere, so what is it going to be like at the premiere? And I'm like, Jeymes, we're so far away from it.
I was like, no, we ain't. No, they were the people that pretty much I had in mind for The Harder They Fall. There's things chop and change, and you know, COVID and you know, scripts change the characters, but this version of this movie was this cast, and you know, I wanted Jonathan. You know, when Jonathan Majors was cast to play Nat Love, I hadn't seen anything that he was in. Nothing. I hadn't seen anything. I didn't ask him to read for the script. In fact, he was doing a interview. You were doing an interview for White Boy Rick. And he was talking about his process and how his process was helping another actor in the movie. And he broke it down, and I saved that interview, and I showed it to Jay-Z, to JL. I was like, that's Nat Love. That inner mind work is the reason why Jim Beckwourth follows Nat Love, and Bill Pickford. I was like, it's him. It's him. I want him for Nat Love. And then the day we spoke on FaceTime, in the evening.
By the way, before the pandemic, James Sammy was already using FaceTime. So that was a new thing.
Yeah.
That was a new thing.
Yeah. I never used the regular. I never put the phone to my ear. And just for the record, we waited our whole lives to be able to look at people and talk to them. And as soon as it comes out, everyone's like, no, don't do that. And just call me. You better FaceTime me. I want to see them eyes. And in the evening, Jonathan sent me a poem about the mind of Nat Love. I went, it's this dude. He is Nat Love. It's him. And when I'm married to an idea, it haunts me until I execute it. Me and Idris go back. I was saying like the blue can of Dax. Like we go back like Jacob's cream crackers and cheese. Me and Idris go back since Doc Cotton and Nick Cotton were running EastEnders. Matter of fact, when I look at Idris, if Idris tells me something I don't like, I don't want to react. I just hear ish, 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 ish. Dun, 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 dun. So as far as we go, like we were always talking about cooking the harder they fall, and the whole thing's poetry beyond words. When me and JL first connected for the harder they fall, we met actually in London in 2002. Wow. Right, like this whole, just the whole thing is serendipitous. And when I was speaking to Regina, I was just like, when you got called, because it took us so long to get Regina King on the phone. I don't know what she was doing.
Working.
But it's like, I was thinking to myself, it's only a FaceTime, but we had to wait like 2.5 weeks. I remember like the day before the 2.5 week, the day before, I was like, whoa, I can't wait till tomorrow. I can speak to Regina. And then, and the FaceTime happened. And just before, I was like, okay, look, James, you got probably 30 seconds to make an impression. Because I believe you make an impression on someone the first minute you meet them, you've decided. I was like, you got like 30 seconds. What are you going to say? She came on, well, hello. I was like, peace to the Black Queen, Regina King. What's cracking? Okay, so look, here's what I'm making. And then I picked up the guitar. It was like, her name was Regina. Right. I was like, when we put that, I was like, whew, if this don't work. but Regina turned out to be as enthused for this project as I did. And so I managed to really get the exact cast that I wanted. It was a dream cast. And
I don't categorize people like that, We're all black people, no matter where you're from. Most of us don't know where we're from, at least as Americans. So I see Regina, I see Idris, I see Jeymes. We're all from the same tribe. So my mentality isn't even to look at people like that, And then there's a larger tribe, which is the human tribe, and you take that into account also. But I can't even really speak. I'm not the one to speak to that because that's not my point of view in life. I mean, that's my sister, that's my brother, and that's how we approached it every day.
And then also, there's COVID.
Yeah.
And man, if ever there was, when people always say like, sidebar. Remember when that COVID album was first released in the stores, like everyone was buying this COVID album. There was this narrative that black people can't catch COVID, like for a split second. Then Idris, the blackest of the blackest, came down with COVID. Idris was so black he didn't even catch COVID-19, he caught COVID-20. And the whole thing, I'm saying, like I always say, we always say racism would end if there was an alien attack. And COVID is an alien attack. It's a virus. It doesn't even want you to die. It's like War of the Worlds. It wants you to stay well so it can multiply. And this is we're living in a real life movie. If there was ever something to eradicate the human condition of differentiation and conflict because of skin color, it was this worldwide pandemic we were thrown into the midst of, and that was the biggest unifier I've ever seen. We're all actually here in masks. Like, that's the biggest everyone's trying to duck that Rona. Like, that's the biggest unifier I've ever seen. Well, me and Jay's relationship goes back quite some. So we had worked on The Great Gatsby together. A few years before that, we were working on a rapper called Jay Electronica's album. So we go back. Working with Jay is just like breathing. He's really, giving and generous, much like everyone here. He's really generous collaborator. But the interesting thing with Jay is he's super cine literate. So we were working a lot of times on like story and film and that kind of stuff, as much as or more than music at times. Like, he's super cine literate. I think people think the name Jay-Z and they automatically assume it was music. But it wasn't, I think all our relationships, your relationship with Jay spans over a decade, and he's a real film fan and is as knowledgeable about Westerns as, say, someone else, and just film in general. I think if you look at his discography from the beginning, his first album, there was Al Pacino references. You think you big time? You gonna die big time. Here come the pain. He was always, that's Carlito's way. He was always, his music has always been like cinema. And then there's other times where you just marvel at the guy, because he doesn't use a pen. So even when we're writing we co-wrote the title track together, The Harder They Fall. And we was on the last verse. And when I'm writing, I use a pen. So I cannot remember the line I wrote literally 33 seconds ago. And he'd be looking like, and you can see his frustration building up. Like, what's wrong? I'm like, what's the line before he, like, it was like, the better we fall. And he'd be looking like, what the hell's the, man? I'm like, you're the one that don't use a pen. I use the pen all my life. He just stores all of this information in his head. And like, when he's writing a verse for one of the songs that you guys will be hearing soon, his eyes closed and he's just listening to the music. You're watching this in real time, his eyes closed, and you're like, okay, I got it. And he'll give you the illest verse, but peep this. Then, 2 minutes later, he'll go, it wasn't right. I'm gonna erase it. Okay, I got it. You're like, wait, that's like Hendrix. That's like Jimi Hendrix going, I got the joint. Peep this. Hey, Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? I'm going out to shoot my old lady. I caught her mess around with another man. You're like, oh, hey, Joe. Who was Joe? Why? This is the best song I've ever heard. Go, wait, it's not right. Purple Haze. What the hell? Purple Haze is great. Wild Thing is great. But what happened to Hey Joe? It's a crazy thing when you're watching someone that doesn't use a pen and they're how they erase stuff and go again, and you just want to record all the time, like, so I could steal those bars. Like, okay, let me just have them then. I'm not a rapper, but I can sell them on the street. I can go back to Mozart State and sell them in the hood. Anyway, it's awesome working with Jay. It's just like breathing, really. Well, it's a really interesting thing. I'll start with the second half of your question. All the Westerns I grew up watching that made me fall in love with Westerns, I started by saying BBC One. I was watching them on TV, and I think the landscape, The Harder They Fall is a really cinematic movie for me. Huge vistas, all of these guys ride into it, like, it's just amazing. But we also have to embrace the times. And people do watch things on the small screen more than they ever have. I don't make a movie for people to watch on their phones, not even their iPads, really. But some people can't really. I think what Netflix has done has brought film and entertainment just around the world in a way that it wasn't before. Everyone can experience the same thing at the same time. Everyone here is in England, so you all know my pain. Driss, like, remember them days, man, where a movie would come out in America and we couldn't wait to see that movie. And then they'll give you you have to type in before Google, but now Google UK release date is literally the bane of my existence. UK release date. The film is out in October, but we get it in March. Like, what the heck? Who made that stupid rule? Like, word of mouth, like what, 6 months? 6 months? But you expect me not to find out in 6 months that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad? That verbal kin isn't Kaiser Soze? I find out the following weekend. UK release, damn the UK release date. And then there's Netflix. Blasts it around the world all at once. It's like you can't ask for a better place. And also, you know, I don't know that another studio would have made The Harder They Fall to this level and then embraced it. Like Netflix doubled down in the pandemic when all films like were getting shut down. Netflix doubled down on our movie. They doubled down. Like, you are definitely gonna make this movie, and they went super hard. You know, there's a particular scene in this movie. I won't spoil it for anyone that knows, but I got a call from one of the studios, and they said, "Look, Jeymes, what you're doing in this scene is when they go to rob a bank. What you're doing in this scene and the look of the scene was not on the script. They went, it seems, Jeymes, you know, and we're really being cool. Here's why I love Netflix. We're really being, you know, I'm cautious with my wording, Jeymes, but it seems like your appetite has grown." I was like, "My brother, I promise you, my appetite hasn't grown at all. It was always huge." And I need that scene in the movie to blast up. So I think like Netflix was just the perfect home. And what made us go there, you know, I wanted originally to film in the theaters. And then JL and Jay-Z, they do this thing where I'll get a text message from Jay. Because at first I was like, theaters. And, you know, me and Idris was always talking about that. And I got a text message from Jay, like, the text message was like 6:30, because he wakes up super early, that dude. And he went, "Come to my house for 8:30. JL's gonna be there." That sounds like an ambush to me. I went around the house, and the seating, there's 3 seats. And JL was sitting over there, Jay was sitting there, his seat was there, and there was an empty seat, like right there. It was like, I was expecting to see, who's the presenter of The Weakest Link? Is that lady's name again? Anne Robinson. I was expecting to see Anne Robinson. I was like, okay, this looks like an ambush. This looks like I sat in that chair. Like Wesley Snipes in the Michael Jackson's Bad video. Like, so what's up? And JL and Jay looked at me and was like, you know, basically, we're going to Netflix. Huh? Netflix? And then you could probably speak to that particular ambush. But they made perfect sense, and I got to see why it was the perfect home as we were filming. Then the lockdown, then the pandemic, and then just embracing like us being here now and us beaming all around the world. Like Netflix was the future. It was the perfect
the
home.
reason it was important for us to do it at Netflix is the goal. If we're going to tell a story like this with this cast, the goal is to have as many people around the world to have access to it. And sometimes when you do a theatrical release, there's these built-in biases, like no one wants to see an all-black cast. We want to cut the wall. I know for a fact that's not true.
Yeah.
But there's still kind of, in certain territories around the world, that they will tell studios, this movie's not for us. And they're not really in tune with how the younger generation feels. So I know this movie had a shot from the beginning. So what Netflix allows is, around the world, everyone has access to it, and we will have as many people as possible seeing the movie, and that was the goal. So that's why Netflix was the right place for that.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact they were really enthusiastic about it.
Super. I mean, you know, it's a big thing for randomly in a restaurant, like just randomly, and at the end of that conversation, and I didn't know who he was. He was like, you know, we're going to make a movie with this guy, and he knew then I had never directed. I was a debut, director. This was going to be my debut feature film, and he embraced it, and everyone in the studio embraced it. Scott Stuber, Tendo, and again, they all like embraced it and never treated me as if I was a first-time director. They really embraced the vision and embraced my voice. I wasn't stifled in any area. So, you know, it was a godsend that Netflix exists. 15 years ago, I was saying earlier, they were sending DVDs to our houses. Who knew that they'll become this behemoth of a studio? It's really something to marvel at. I wanted to use, and when you hear the soundtrack and you hear I span kind of all of our diaspora, like I go from Nigeria to Cape Verde to Jamaica, and it's really just all kind of African expression, and I think Fela perfectly suits the Western. Like Fela was a cowboy, right? He was to the Nigerian government. He was an outlaw. He lived his own path. He was super political. They killed his mom in his house. He took her to the steps of the government. Like, this man was a titan of a human being, and his music, when you listen to it, I just see I see the Old West. I needed Fela, that voice, and because that song is a song called Let's Start, and Ginger Baker's on the drums, right, his life, and he goes, the song means let's start what we have come into the room to do. And every single time I listened to it, I'd see Trudy Smith versus Stagecoach Mary, and Regina King versus Zarcy, and Regina throws away her gun and says, "Let's go." Over Fela, it's just an amazing juxtaposition in film.
I'm Sophia Jessica. Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more.
Really?
I'm here on the largest of the Balearic Islands, Mallorca. With the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean Sea, beautiful mountainous landscape, the thriving city of Palma, quaint little market towns, a growing number of luxury hotels, it's no surprise that the likes of Audrey Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor like to holiday here. So come and join me as I take you round Mallorca.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.